Okay, we are back with chapter 12 from your textbook. We're starting now on the marketing plan portion of the course, and we're going to spend this lesson and the next week on the marketing plan. This is one of those two areas that I've talked about before that is the most important, at least in the eyes of bankers and investors, potential investors. And so we want to certainly spend some time on this. For you will have quiz on each of these chapters, but more than that, we want you to understand the material so that you can incorporate it into your overall business plan. You will have your first draft due. Let me look at the syllabus very quickly here. Your first draft due on your marketing plan Friday, the week of February 13th through 19th, whatever that Friday is. I don't have my calendar here, but on your syllabus it says week 6, February 13th through 19th. First draft of marketing plan due, and we'll talk a little bit more in another video about exactly what all the expectations are for the first draft, and then several weeks after that you'll have your final draft due, not long before the full business plan is due. But we'll talk about in a separate video about what the expectations are for each of those stages: the first draft of the marketing plan, the first draft of the financial plan, the final of the marketing plan, the final of the financial plan, and then the final of the overall business plan. I'll put together a rubric for you that will discuss each of those things that are needed at the different stages. So separate video and the rubric together should help you. So be on the lookout in the days ahead for that. Okay, we're going to talk now about we're going to do chapter 12 before we do chapter 9, and I know I'm going out of order a little bit here, but having read through the text, that's the way that I feel it's best presented, and so that's what we're going to do. Chapter 12, and let me find my notes on chapter 12. Okay, here we go. We're going to follow along with the order of the textbook, but I'm going to give you a little more insight, hopefully. And certainly, as I've said with every other session, anything in the text is subject to being on a quiz, and certainly anything that's talked about here in the video is subject to being on the quiz. Excuse me. Okay, so let's get started. Wrong page here. And I've loaded a couple of videos, a couple of extra YouTube videos for you to view that talk a little further and more than anything just strengthen the information or solidify the points that are made in the text and things that I'll talk about here. Some YouTube videos, and so certainly view those, and may have a question or two that come from those videos. All right. Pulling up my notes here. All right, chapter 12. What is a marketing plan, and why is that important? Got to put it on this side here. Marketing plan. The talk about that in your text starts on page 374. But I want to give you a little more insight. Like I said, if you have a business in mind, you also likely have a product. Hopefully you have a product or service that you want to offer as a part of that business. Usually those go hand in hand. The marketing plan helps you to define a number of things, from what to charge for your goods or services, to how you're going to make it appealing to a target audience, to a whole host of other areas that are summed up in this word marketing. So we're gonna talk about that, and how best to go about that. Um, whether you right now you whether or not you're ready to start your business right now, or at the end of this course, or in 2 years, or in 15 years, or never. These are points that you can certainly take and apply and help you in determining either what would be the best way to do it, or after going through it, as I've said before, you may realize, you know what, this just isn't feasible. And if you are being honest with yourself about that, then that's okay, because in the long run, it can save you a lot of time and frustration. You may really want to do something, but if you just realize it's not going to work out, it's probably best not, it is best not to even take that first step. So this course is a good way to kind of uh, help you vet out those decisions. Okay, market research. Page 374 in your text, is a way to help you make decisions. The result of market research is data, information that helps you make decisions. The authors of the text tell of two types of research: primary research and secondary research. Let me see here which one. Got more information on a little bit more on secondary, but we're going to talk about primary first. Page 377, jumping ahead a little bit, actually talks about some primary research. Primary research is research that you've done yourself, seeking some outcome, and you can better specify what that outcome should be, what you want it to be. Ask questions in certain ways to elicit a certain type of answer. Um, Whereas with secondary research, it's a lot of data and information about individuals, or businesses, or groups of people that you have to derive something extra out of it. The exact answer is not there. You have to make some assumptions in some cases, based on what the information tells you. You really have to be able to read into the information. Sometimes you have to couple it with information from other sources, maybe 3, 4, 12, 20 sources. Knowing a little bits of information from all these places help you formulate a direction, or a plan for marketing. So that is how secondary research is used. Primary research is a little more hands-on. Those are the kinds of things that you can control, and I almost use the word manipulate. You don't want to manipulate the research, because if you now certainly you're looking for decisions, you're looking for information that is going to allow you to make a decision, but you don't want to lead someone in a direction just because you're looking for a certain answer. If you're, if you are looking for the answers that are going to tell you, yes, this is a valid business that is going to make lots and lots of money, then you may shape. Now, certainly that's what you want ultimately, but you can't shape your questions. You can't phrase your questions in a way that is going to cause someone to answer favorably every time. You want honest answers from your subject group, because you want to know if putting your money in is truly worth it. If you should take that risk, and if you get answers that are positive for you starting the business, but because of the way you phrased a question to someone in your primary research, it caused them to answer in a way that was favorable to you falsely, then that doesn't help you at all. So you need to be very careful in crafting your questions, and certainly even have someone look over that critically, look over those questions and say, you know what, I really feel like what the answer that you're going to get here is not going to be beneficial for you. Maybe we need to reword it slightly, or sometimes it's just changing one word or putting a suffix on a single word in an entire sentence or an entire paragraph that changes the result of it, or potentially changes the results entirely that you would get. But you're seeking honest results, not just results that are going to be in your favor. Okay. So primary research. There's a couple of sources there, and I've used these before. SurveyMonkey and Zoomerang. Those are online sites that will allow you to send out surveys via email, or you can send a link to the survey via email, and the survey is stored on their sites, their websites, and you're limited to a certain number of questions that you can ask for free. If you want to go above that, or if you want to send it to a larger number of individuals, in some cases they require you to register to purchase a package. You really only need to do that if you're going to be doing a large number of surveys over numerous months time, and for your small business that likely won't be the case. So generally, if you can whittle it down to the number of questions that are that each of these sites or services limits you to, then you can get a fair amount of information. You may then, based on the results that you receive, you may go back and craft another survey and send it out again, maybe to a different group, maybe to the same group. Okay, so certainly read about primary research and secondary research. Some information about primary research. You may have seen individuals with a clipboard and pen asking questions of individuals as they're shopping. The in-person questionnaires or interviews, like in a mall or a parking lot or something like that. That's primary research. That's information. Getting that one-on-one conversation where you get the straight answers. The benefit of that is that you can see, you're able to see the body language and hear the intonation in a person's voice when they answer a question, and it may cause you to ask a follow-up question that might not be on your list. The one drawback with interviews, one-on-one interviews, the primary research methodology, is that in a lot of cases, especially if you are doing the research for yourself, if you have not hired a professional marketing firm to do this, someone that's unbiased, a lot of times we ask the questions in a way that almost it can elicit the response that you're looking for. We talked about that earlier, about you want true and accurate answers. You don't just want the answers that are going to make you feel good. And sometimes the person that's taking the questionnaire or the survey, they can tell by the way you ask a question how closely tied you are to the survey and ultimately to the business. And a lot of times those survey takers, they don't want to disappoint you. They want to give you answers, whether they know you or not. They want to give you answers that make you happy. That's human nature with most people. And so the more closely tied you are to the business, the more difficult it becomes, and it's really something that's unconscious. The individuals that are asking those questions really don't realize that they're doing that. That they're asking questions in a certain way. Don't you like this one better? Yes, I do like this. Okay, you understand where I'm going with that. Whereas if you have a paid professional marketing firm, they're going to sit there with a blank look on their face. They're likely not going to smile to give away the answer that they are looking for. They're not going to raise their eyebrows, or cheeks aren't going to go up. Their voice is not going to. There's not going to be an inflection in their voice whenever they're asking the questions. That they do these kind of things all the time, and they know they know about this, and so therefore they don't want to direct the answers of the individual that's taking the questionnaire or the survey. And so sometimes it is best to have a professional firm working with you to help deliver these surveys. Those can also be done over the telephone. Some of the same rules apply here. Depending on who's calling and asking the questions. You may get better responses than others. The trend these days is more towards internet-based surveys, though. Uh, One thing, another advantage of working with a professional marketing firm is they have lots of statistics and data about who actually answers these questionnaires. You think about a lot of times. If you're shopping, let's say for example, think about you yourself shopping in a mall somewhere. If You may be very busy, you don't have time to stop and answer a survey, a questionnaire. You may truly want to help someone out, but you just don't have time for it. Well, you may be the very target market group that person is looking for. They're looking to talk to the busy individual. Maybe you're a mom with kids and they've got a product or service that is just pinpoints your lifestyle. Well, they really need to talk to you, but if you don't have time for them, that's one less survey response that really could have benefited them. Well, the person that may actually stop and talk to them may be totally out of their target market. And so no matter how they answer, it really doesn't matter. It doesn't help them in the results that they receive. And so you really have to kind of discount some of the answers that are received based on who actually is willing to stop and talk to you. And there are some qualifier questions, that a lot of times they will ask at the beginning of a survey to determine whether or not a person is in the target market, and that way they don't waste their time, they don't waste your time. And if they don't get a response, if they're not able to ask the remainder of the questions, that's fine. That they don't want to know how you would answer if you're not in their target market. So they may ask your age, some of your buying habits, two or three other questions, and then that way they've only taken maybe a minute of your time instead of taking 5 to 10 minutes of your time, and they can screen you out basically. So there are some tactics that professional surveyors use. Things that you don't necessarily get, or you can get over the internet, but it's tougher. People can answer a certain way. Just to be included in the survey, and who knows why people do that, but there are people that just maybe they're bored and got nothing better to do other than to answer surveys, and that I don't understand that, but hey, I'm sure it happens. Okay, there are also services now where individuals can be paid to take surveys about products, basically to provide feedback. They may use a product, and they can be paid for that. From a small amount to large amounts, depending on what the company is and how motivated they are to get responses. They may pay $5, $10, $30 per response. There are individuals that I know who have signed up for these kind of things as a way to make extra money during the economy that we've been going through here. After signing up, though, found out that that they weren't all those surveys were not all that they thought they were whenever they originally signed up, and they weren't getting paid what they thought they would. They truly do have to fit into, a very narrow target market in a lot of cases before they'll even be sent this survey. So, but that's where working with a professional marketing firm can really benefit you. Okay. All right. Use caution in the design of the questionnaire. Let's see. Have an example here. an in-person questionnaire regarding the need for a community center. If I were asking those, if I were assisting in individuals who were trying to, who had a desire to bring about a community center where they lived, I could structure questions in a way that almost no matter how the respondent answered, their answer could be viewed as an agreement that a community center was needed. For example, here are a couple of questions. This one's a true false. Our community does not have enough activities for senior citizens. Okay. Well, if someone answered true, that if you were reviewing the survey, you could say, "See there, we don't have enough activities for senior citizens. Why is that? Well, the reason is because we don't have a place for activities for senior citizens. That's it's read into that, but it's not exactly there. So you would need to have a follow-up question. On the flip side, same question, our community does not have enough activities for senior citizens. If a person were to answer false, you know, we do have enough activities for senior citizens. Well, that's one person's view, certainly, and that's the reason you take surveys, to try to get a large number of respondents. But just because there are a large number of activities for senior citizens doesn't mean that there's not a need for a senior activity center. Maybe they are, they're dotted all over the community, and having a central location where those activities could take place actually would be beneficial, instead of this group trying to do some over here, and there may be a small number of people that attend it. This group trying to do it over here, and a different small number of group of senior citizens attending that. Whereas if you were to bring all those together in one place, all of these groups that are kind of spread out could come together and know about all of the activities. They could have a central place with a phone number, or where they could call and hear a recording about what's going on for senior citizens. So that question alone really doesn't help you, but it can be viewed as a positive either way. So you really have to be careful. Here's another question: how many miles do you have to drive to the nearest community center? Okay. Well, if it's 5 miles, there could be a community center that is 30 miles away, and someone answers 5 miles. Well, that can be viewed as, well, this is a person that doesn't necessarily, they don't have to drive that far, and so there's not really a need. At the same time, they could, it could be that that person is here from out of town. They come here regularly to do shopping, and are in your community 3 days a week anyway, and would love to see those kinds of activities here in this community that they're visiting 3 days a week anyway, instead of going to this other community. And maybe the community center in the other city is not very good quality. Maybe they've let it run down some, and just because there's one that's 5 miles away doesn't mean that they ever go to that community center. So you really have to have quality follow-up questions to each of these questions that you ask in a survey. So I sort of alluded to this, but these questions alone don't speak to the need for a community center. Even if there's a perceived need, there has to be other supporting information, such as the population in the area. For example, if a city has only 4,000 people, in the city, they might not be able to justify the expense of building a community center, or even renovating an old building that could serve as a community center. It might be better. The better approach might be to have some other arrangement, such as coordinating with local churches for the use of their gymnasium during times when their gymnasium is not being used for church functions. The point is that you have to be careful with how you craft your questions, because you may end up justifying to yourself that you need to be in a certain business, or that there's demand for something when it's just not there. So again, be honest with yourself. If a questionnaire is used in making those kinds of decisions, you'll be putting your time, your money, and possibly your well-being on the line. So be very, very cautious in that. Okay, we're going to move on to the target market, and this is on page 385, and certainly all the pages in between here. The primary research. We didn't talk about secondary research. Let me go back up here. excuse me. Secondary research is that information, and that's on page 374, 375, 376. That's information that someone else has collected, not for you, but you certainly can use it. They have a purpose for it themselves, but you certainly have access to it. And some examples of that are the government census. There's bizstats.com has some information on businesses, the number of employees. There's a site, I think it's called Manta, MANTA.com, which has some information about businesses, the number of employees, the names of the owners, estimate of annual revenues, different things. Also, hoovers.com, HOOVERS, although I think that now is a pay for subscription type of site. There may be some amount of free data in there, but there are lots of sources out there for data for you to pull from in making a decision about what type of business and if you should even go into business. So those are what are called secondary sources of research. And okay, another free or low cost source are trade publications or journals, and I've got a couple of links in Blackboard to one had several hundred different trade publications, and there was one, I think, I don't know if it's the same one or another one that I put on there, was links to trade association websites where you can get some information. It may take some work to find out what the best publications are for a given industry, but when you do, it can propel your research ahead by weeks or months. Another method is simply observation of customers. Now, this is although this may be viewed as sort of borderline primary research. I'm gonna throw it in here. Excuse me. One of my jobs during college, I was paid to sit in my car in the parking lot of a competitor and make notes of how many, this is a retail establishment, make notes of how many people went in the store and how many came out with an item that they had purchased. And so, that can be viewed as primary research, although I didn't actually approach those individuals and ask them, did they have a satisfactory shopping experience? What did you buy? How much did you spend? I didn't ask them those questions. So, there's some argument to say that it's not primary, but suffice it to say that the information was valuable to this retail establishment. The time of year, the time of day, a special offer that was being advertised. There's a whole host of outcomes that you may be looking to test for, and so that will determine the method that you go about finding the research data. Okay. All right. So certainly read through the pages there and on primary and secondary research. And there's a few definitions along the way. Make sure you read and understand those. And those some of those things would be good discussion topics on the discussion board. I don't want to be the one leading the discussion every time. So certainly you may take one of the definitions and say, I experienced a case where this happened to me, and talk about the word here. There are several on page 379 that you could choose from. At the end of each chapter, it gives you the words to know. Let me flip over there and see what those are. Page 393, key terms is what they call it. There are 15 or 20 or so there, almost 20. And you may, after reading the definition of those key terms, you may remember back to a time where you experienced that, and you may talk about it, and hopefully that will help someone else, one of your classmates, understand it better, and they may do the same for you on an entirely different subject. So that's how I hope that the discussion board will be utilized, not just me directing discussion. Okay, next subject here, marketing plan, target market, page 385 in your text. Okay, target market. The skill module 12.5 on page 386. Certainly read through that. It's a real good activity. Many advertisers in magazines, and this is a way you can actually benefit without having to pay a professional marketing firm. Go to your local library or the bookstore and pick up a magazine that one that you feel may target the the same audience that you may be wanting to target. And maybe you've got a broader audience, but this is one part of the audience. Thumb through the magazines there, and these advertisers pay experienced creative advertising agencies large sums of money to design a message that will be appealing to their target audience. You can learn a lot just by flipping through the pages of a magazine at a magazine stand. Also, you can learn a lot by observing your target market. For example, if there's let's think of a dry cleaner that is located next to a grocery store. Okay, a lot of times you'll see a Winn-Dixie or some other type of grocery store, and then there's a drugstore next to it, and then one or two other spots that are available, and it's beneficial for other business to locate there because there's high traffic. Okay. So let's say one of those spots is a dry cleaner next to the grocery store there, and the dry cleaner, the owner observes senior citizens shopping at the grocery store primarily between the hours of 2 and 4 p.m. More so than any other time of day. There may be some reasons for that. It may be that they've got some activities that they wanted to do in the morning. You may check after making this observation. You may check with the local churches and with the senior activity center in the area to find out what kind of activities they have, and then coming off of that, you may want to the dry cleaner may want to offer a special for senior citizens who drop off their dry cleaning between the hours of 2 and 4. Okay. Well, if you realize that that's the time of day when they're going to be out anyway, why not encourage them to just come next door to your shop and drop off their dry cleaning? However, if you know that there are activities generally going on in another part of town, and a large number of senior citizens are attending those events, and that's where it's good to be connected in your community to understand what your target market is doing. And maybe dry cleaners, maybe senior citizens are not your primary target market. This is just a segment, but it certainly is a way that you can pick up some extra business. But understanding the whole range of spending habits that, or not just spending habits, but activities that your target market participate in, will help you in designing a marketing plan. If you were to do that same offer between the hours of 10 and 2. Then those may be the hours when those senior citizens, they may like to do a lot of volunteer work in the community, delivering meals at lunchtime, maybe getting together for senior aerobics or something at a local church or some other activity. And so 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. may be the time when the bulk of those kinds of activities are going on. You may still get some, but nowhere near. And again, 10, 11, 12, 1, 2, that's 4 hours of time that you're offering that. Whereas you only have to offer it for 2 hours over here, 2 to 4 p.m., at a time when they're already going to be right next door to your facility. So you can narrow the range of time in which you make that offer available, and potentially increase the number that are going to be coming there anyway. So just observing, pay attention to the world that's going on around you, and you'll spot a lot of things that you can capitalize on, and gear a marketing plan towards. And those are the kind of things, there's no reason why you can't write that into your business plan. Now, does it have to be factual? For this course, certainly not. You don't know. You don't have an existing dry cleaner. But what I want you to do is to be able to incorporate statements like that, as if you were already in business, or as if you've made these observations. You've gone to the Winn-Dixie parking lot and sat for an entire day, or just as you're there, you've noticed things, and you know that this would be a good strategy to pursue. Those are the kind of things that I want you to be thinking about and incorporating into your financial plan. Okay, next, so that's a good activity to the skill module here. Look at that, and certainly maybe even go to your local library or magazine stand if you have a Books a Million or something of that nature. Excuse me, and just thumb through some magazines that you think would be targeting your audience also. Okay, the current situation is the next heading area that we want to talk about. That's on page 388. Okay, it talks about a SWOT analysis, SWOT. That stands for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Certainly a good exercise to go through. That's something that is in Chapter 7 we haven't gotten to yet. We will eventually, so I won't spend any time on it here. But one other thing that I want you, very, very important to understand, is direct competition and indirect competition. And I'll give you an example of this here. You can read the definition there in the textbook on page 388. But this is important to understand, because you do need to know who you're going up against, your competitors. Who are your competitors? I'll give you the example of a movie theater. Okay, if you decide that you want to open up a movie theater, now first of all, these days you're probably not going to be able to do that on an independent basis. It's probably going to be a franchise, one that has numerous locations, and they're going to probably choose their locations more so than you choosing to be in that business. But let's just make assumptions here. Okay, you want to open up a movie theater. Well, who is your competition? Okay, well, it's any the obvious answer is other movie theaters. Okay, so you could go through the yellow pages, or you could survey individuals in the area. Where are they going to movies? What is the quality of the movie theater? Are the floors always sticky from Cokes being spilt on the floor? Are the cushions, the foam in the seats, are they comfortable? Is it an area of town where you really don't want to go after dark or something? Those kind of things. When you're doing your analysis to see how you would compare relative to another movie theater. However, other movie theaters are not your only competition. You really need to, in that case, consider any type of business or service that could compete with or challenge for entertainment dollars. Okay. Back up. The direct competition would also be stores like Blockbuster, or I don't think Movie Gallery's still in business anywhere, but we'll throw them in there. Movie Gallery, places that rent movies, DVDs. Those are obvious direct competitors to movie theaters, because if someone is going to rent a DVD on Friday night, they're not likely also going to go to a movie on Friday night. Those are trade-offs. You don't do those kind of things. Okay. Other competitors that are indirect, this one may be sort of borderline direct, indirect, is like skating rinks. Don't know if you have a skating rink where you live, but those are activities that are partaken in by teenagers in a lot of cases. And so movie theater versus skating rink is a trade-off. You're going to do one or the other, but likely, now there may be some crossover in the same evening or the same week, but it's likely that they're not going to partake in both activities in one evening or in the same week. So those are competitors. How about this one, though? Competitor for a movie theater being high school sporting events. High school sporting events take up time. They take money that is generally budgeted. May not be written out on paper, but in a person's mind, those are entertainment dollars. Sporting events are entertainment to a lot of people. Certainly even high school sporting events, certainly professional sporting events. But if someone is thinking about it, the dollars that they would allocate to go in to see a movie at a theater take away from dollars that they would allocate to go see the high school football team or the volleyball team or whatever sport that they choose, and vice versa. Dollars that they're going to spend over here are going to take away from dollars that they would spend over here at your movie theater. And so that is an indirect competitor. They're not in the same line of business per se, but that is an entertainment business, and that's something that you can't really control. And there are a lot of things that come into play. There are community pride, parental involvement, the number of students that are in a class. For example, if you have an additional 25%. The number of students in a graduating class one year, well, that's going to mean a lot more involvement and interest from parents, friends, neighbors, other relatives that are going to take away from dollars that would otherwise be allocated to things like movie theater, the movie rental place. Maybe even things like restaurants and things, depending on what time the restaurant closes, and how long the event goes on. So all of those kind of things are what are considered indirect competitors and need to be accounted for on some level. So keep that in mind when you're going through your marketing plan. Okay, the 4 P's on starting on page 389 and going for a few pages here, and then we'll wind up this video. I know I'm getting close to my time, I think. Give me just a moment. Let me check. Oh, we still got a little ways to go. Okay. All right. The 4 P's are product, promotion. Oh, lost it. Product, promotion, price, and placement. Product, promotion, price, and placement. Okay. Product, we're going to spend the detailed information about that's the detailed information about what you are offering, and we're going to spend more time on that in chapter 9, which will be the next lesson here for week 2. But we'll touch on that a little bit here in just a moment. Excuse me. The same thing for price. The price is how much you'll charge for what you're offering to customers, and we'll get more detailed about that in chapter 9 as well, which is the other lesson for week 2. Promotion, that is how you will get the message out to your potential customers. How are you going to let them know about you and what you have to offer? We'll spend more time on that in chapter 10. Again, we'll talk a little bit about it here. And then lastly, the placement. This is how you will get it to your customer, and there's a number of aspects to that, and we'll cover that in more detail in chapter 11. But let's just talk through some of the things here. Didn't really make notes on this. Excuse me. Actually, no, we're not. There's not enough here to get into too much detail because it's only a couple of pages. So we're not going to get into depth on this. Certainly, read through what this is and be prepared to discuss it in more or to hear more about it in more detail in those chapters that I mentioned, 9, 10, and 11 in the weeks ahead. Chapter 9 being the latter part of this week, and then 10 and 11 I believe. Let me see when we're covering chapter 10 and 11. Chapter 10 is next week, and 11. 11 is actually, wow, a little ways out in the middle of March. That's small business distribution and location. Now, certainly by that time, the draft of your marketing plan will have to have been done, and but that aspect can be incorporated into your final marketing plan, and I'll be understanding that some parts of it will not have been covered in class, and so therefore may be absent from the marketing plan draft. But we do have those scheduled to be covered in the weeks and months ahead. Let me see again here. Chapter 10 is next week. What did I say? So we're covering 9 later this week, chapter 10 next week, and 11 in a few weeks down the road. And so that gets us 3 out of the 4 P's will be covered by the end of this week. Okay? All right. Now, the written plan. The written plan is what makes you different. You want to define what it is that you have that the firm that's doing, at least in the mind of the consumer, something very similar, maybe almost exactly the same thing in the mind of the consumer, but there's some little something that makes you different. And what is that? Remember we talked in the first week about taking an old business and making it new? This is what you have to define here. Why would I do business with you? If I'm let's say you're that skating rink. Okay, you loved skating when you were younger. Used to go all the time, and you just really feel like you want to own a skating rink. Okay, well, why would I do business with you? Is it feasible to open a second location? Maybe the skating rink is for sale. That's a question that you always have to ask when a business is for sale. Why is it for sale? Is it because the owner, has gotten to a point where they want to retire and just do something else? And if so, how long have they really been looking for a buyer? And if no one else wants to buy it, why not? Maybe they see something that's there. Maybe there's not a market for it any longer. So you really have to be careful when you look at buying a business, an existing business. You always have to question, why is it for sale? Because a lot of times the business owner knows that times have changed. The interest in whatever it is that they're offering, the product or service, has not really been there from the community. And they're looking to get out because they're not making money anymore. So those kind of things have to come into play when you are. Now I got off track a little bit, went down a little rabbit trail for a minute. Sorry about that. But the point is, you have to define what it is that is going to make you successful. What makes you different? What would make me want to come to your business as opposed to the one, similar business just down the street? Okay. With regards to the plan, just like there's no one set layout or structure to a business plan, the same is true for a marketing plan. As long as you've covered the what, how, when, where, why, and who of it, you should be in good shape. As I've said many times, remember to be honest with yourself. If the way to think of it is like this: if someone handed you the marketing plan that you produced and said, "Here you go. This is a way for you to make fill in the blank amount of money, and I'm going to give it to you. You can make $100,000 a year, $250,000 a year, $1,000,000 a year if you follow this marketing plan. But you have to work it exactly as I have laid it out here, and you have to do this and only this for not just 40 hours a week, maybe not 50 hours a week, maybe significantly longer amount of time every week. This is what you have to do every week, and you'll be successful. And you take it and you read through the plan, every single page, whether it's 5 pages or if it's 20 pages, whatever the marketing plan portion is of the overall business plan. But you take that, you read through it, and this is not pretend this is not something that you produced. If someone was giving this to you, I said it originally, if you produced it, let's say someone else gave it to you and said, you do this for me, I'll employ you, you can be successful, you can make vast sums of money. You read through it, and what would be, how would you feel about it, the plan? Would you take it and use it, or would you say, you know what, this is garbage, there is no way this can be done? And this is the way that potential investors and bankers are going to look at your marketing plan and your financial plan. We'll get to that later. And they have lots of years of experience in reviewing business plans and marketing plans. They know what will work and what will not work. So it's best not to just, now I know you have dreams, but it's best not to just put your dreams down on paper of what could be. Well, this might happen. These pie in the sky type of wishes that you hope will take place someday. No, you need facts. You need to put those facts down on paper, and they need to be supportable. They need to be supported with evidence. Talked previously about footnoting things. When you get a piece of data, where did that come from? Did you just pull it out of the air? Well, that's, I'm not, if I'm an investor or I'm a banker, I'm not willing to give money based on a number that you just made up, or a fact that you can't document. I want to know that you have spent time researching this industry and that you understand what it's going to take to be successful. Otherwise, my money's at risk. I could put it in something else. We talked about bankers. They don't make money unless they lend money, and that's true. But they're not going to just be crazy and willy-nilly with their money either. They're going to invest it in opportunities that have a high probability of the return of their money. So they're not going to do it just because it's December 1st and they're only halfway to their lending goal for the calendar year. They're not going to just give out money just to give out money. You have to prove it to them. So think of it that way. If someone were to give you a plan, how and you read through it, would you be willing to put everything else on hold, work 50 plus hours a week at doing this, and your income be on the line? This be what your life is. The same thing is true with your plan. Now, I'm not expecting something that you can. This first run through of a business plan to be something that you can take and make millions of dollars with. That's not what I'm expecting. However, I would like it to be high quality, such that you can take it and get started with a business. I do expect that. Now, whether you do get started with a business or not, then that's certainly up to you. But it needs to be high enough quality to where you could do that. Okay? All right. So, I think we're at the end there. The 4 Ps ends the chapter. Yeah. Okay, so make sure you understand the key terms. They're on page 393. They're collectively, they're on page 393. The terms are, the definitions are scattered throughout the chapter. And we'll have a couple other videos. I'm gonna stop this video now so you can have time to view the other videos and us not run over our allotted class time. Okay.